Virtual tabletops have exploded over the last few years for some reason, almost like we've all been stuck inside, unable to game together in person as we're all too busy dealing with the most anxiety-producing pandemic. There are all kinds that handle character sheets, game systems, tokens. They're all about function, but not that many focus on the classic aesthetic of moving models on 3D terrain, a real-life experience missed by DMs with way too much time and money on their hands. Well, the RPG engine aims to take that classic miniature experience and maybe even improve on it. And yes, obviously, we can't talk about 3D VTTs without mentioning Tailspire and Tabletop Simulator. We'll compare them with the RPG engine a little later. But before any of that... Patron song, patron song, patron song. It's my patron's patron song, patron song, patron song, patron. Okay. First, I gotta point out that RPG Engine is in very early access right now, so keep in mind that things are likely to change and improve a lot. Also, I was given a free copy by the developer. This is not going to affect my opinion. They do not get to see this script or video before you do. Now, with that out of the way, the RPG engine allows you to make 3D maps that you can invite your friends to play on. It does this with a simple but effective 3D terrain shaping tool, allowing you to bring the ground up and down, make caves if you're clever. Then, when you're placing objects like trees and water and rocks and stuff, you can orient and resize them however you see fit. Put a rock on someone's head for all I care. For making outdoor environments, this works really slickly. You can change placement options so that if you want to make a big forest, they'll automatically change size as you put them down. You can make them line up perpendicular to the ground, so if it's at an angle, it's sticking out all over the place, or you can pull it down into the ground, up, down, all around, whatever you want. The amount of control you have to resize, rotate, and move objects is wild. Plus, I should point out that there are objects for fantasy, modern, or sci-fi games, so those of you who are like me who don't just play high fantasy games, the RPG engine has you covered. The other nice thing about map making is that it tends to be really smart about character pathing, because, yeah, the little characters can run and move around. So if you put together an environment and it looks like the players should be able to walk somewhere, by golly, chances are the players can just point and click and it'll work. Obstacles will block movement so they don't go where you want them to. Stairs, it works. Speaking of players, there is currently a nice roster of character models to choose from and the ability to make your own coming down the line. The control over size, speed, equipment, and even to have them perform little actions is a nice touch. GMs, prepare to deal with your players doing stuff like this all session. Beyond that, you've got lighting and fog control and the ability to load up a whole campaign's worth of maps to switch your players between, combat and RP effects, location, pinging thinger, and of course, a dice roller. The RPG engine does a lot and does it pretty darn well. However, it's what's missing that might matter to some of you. First off, if you want your VTTs to be fully integrated with your game system and character sheets like Foundry or Roll20, the RPG engine has pretty much none of that. It's system agnostic. Not a big deal for lots of folks who like to have their character sheets elsewhere, but I know some people want their VTTs to be the whole package. Second, I will say, for as easy as it is to make natural-looking outdoor environments with randomly placed trees and rocks and stuff, trying to make a structured indoor environment, like a dungeon, kinda vexed me. If you want to make a big, complicated dungeon, it's gonna take some getting used to get things looking just right. And when there are lots of objects and you want to place one in a really specific angle, like say putting a huge cobweb on your giant spider forest, figuring out the angles and getting it to stick to the right tree just about drove me nuts. But having objects click into place and magnetize and this and that is all stuff that can be made a lot easier before the official launch, or I might have just missed the hotkeys for how to do that. Because there are hotkeys, a lot of them, and they're extremely handy. They can be a little tough to remember though, so there's a little bit of a learning curve there. It definitely slowed me down earlier on, trying to remember the hotkeys and then find the options in the menu system, which isn't that great, so it's a little tough to learn, but I feel like with time it would get a lot easier. Okay, so that's the rundown of what RPG Engine does, basically. So how does it compare to the two big names in town? First, I'll say that compared to Tabletop Simulator, I do appreciate how light the RPG Engine is on a computer. With its potato mode, you could likely run this on a pretty middling laptop, which, at least in my experience, is a little harder to say for Tabletop Simulator. Now, Tabletop Simulator has some more options thanks to the workshop, allowing you to shove in character sheets and stuff and goofy things players can mess around with. I will also say I found making a map on the RPG Engine a lot easier, just because that's what it's designed to do, and even with the mods and pieces you can download on the workshop for Tabletop Simulator, I don't think it's nearly as smooth a process. Also, the ability to have the miniatures run around and stuff is just next level. In fact, that makes RPG Engine kind of stand out against Tailspire as well, at least in that regard. And frankly, I think the outdoor environments on RPG Engine really give Tailspire a run for its money, except against the most talented of Tailspire creators. No more blocky tile hills, you can actually have a hill with slopes. Get that Minecraft stuff out of here. Natural shapes for bodies of water, and it's all so easy to put together. However, to be fair, Tailspire's tile-based construction system makes putting together buildings and indoor environments way easier than the RPG Engine. Not to mention, Tailspire has the integration of at least some game system stuff and a cinematic mode. Though you could argue that the actual movement and equipment customization for miniatures makes the RPG Engine more naturally cinematic. Whatever that means. And at the moment, that's all I really have to say about it. Honestly, I think it's an impressive product, especially for just being early access. A lot of my issues with it, which are mostly just down to the unintuitive UI and some of the clunky issues when building more precise and indoor environments, are things that they've already stated will be taken care of before full release. Also, it's $20, and right now, if you buy it as a GM, you can have your players join in the game for free with the demo version. Though it does take a little messing around to get it set up the first time. Plus, with the developers aiming to have full Steam Workshop support for community creations, this could really shape up to be an amazing 3D virtual tabletop. Whether or not it's the right one for your game? Well, that's up to you. Anyway, thanks for watching this quick overview of the RPG Engine. Thanks to the developer for sharing this game with me. I think it's really cool, and I might end up using it for a couple things. Let me know what you think in the comment. And hey, if you want to be one of the names that go by when I sing the patron song, go in that description, or follow me on Twitter or Twitch or other stuff. I don't know. I'm probably gonna do things. Got a lot of projects upcoming. Bye!